Hello pupils, hope you're okay. I would like to welcome you for today's lesson. My name is Teacher Dawson, and we are going to start about the social studies for grade 5. So I would like to welcome you, prepare your learning materials where you are for today's lesson. Today we are going to learn about the main competence, which is known as different events occurring in our environment, and specifically the specific competence that you are going to learn is known as keeping records of historical events. So make sure you pay attention and you concentrate for today's lesson. Keeping records of historical event, that's what we are going to concentrate most. Keeping records of historical event. There are so many events that took place in our various environment where we are living. And particularly, for example, in our country, Tanzania, there are so many historical events that took place, and we are just commemorating them. For example, we have the independence of Tanganyika, 1961, the Zanzibar Revolution, 1964, the Union of Tanganyika and Zanzibar, 1964, about the Dodoma train accident, which took place in 2002, the sinking of MV Bukoba, 1996, formation of Chama cha Mapinduzi, CCM, 1977, as well as the death of Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere in 1999. So all of these are historical events which took place in our country. So make sure that this event, you know them in a proper way, as well as when you are going to proceed with the lesson. So these historical events, there are so many ways that can be used to record them, to keep them for future generation. And today, specifically, we are going to start to concentrate mostly with these methods used to keep historical events in our daily life. Now, methods or ways used to keep the historical events. Methods or ways used to keep the historical events. Methods or ways are used to keep the historical events. Now, there are various methods which are used to keep or to record the historical events as follows. Let me mention first. Number one is called the oral tradition. Oral traditions. Number two is known as archives. Archives. Number three is known as museums. Museums. Number four is known as historical sites. Historical sites. Number five is known as written records. Written records. Number six is known as archaeology. 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 Then number seven is known as anthropology. 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 Number eight is known as linguistic. Linguistic. So these are the methods used to keep the historical event in our daily life. So I would like to welcome you so as we can discuss one after another for these methods. Now, starting with the first one, oral traditions. Oral traditions. Oral traditions. Now, what do we mean when we say oral traditions? Now, oral traditions refers to the method of keeping historical events, methods of keeping historical events which is conveyed through the word of mouth. The word of mouth. So oral tradition, basically when we say oral traditions, we mean methods of keeping historical event which is conveyed through the word of mouth. As you know that the word of mouth through talking, this is the method which is given out or passing information from one person to another or from one generation to another through talking as well as listening. And this one, it is in two ways. One, it is in cultural practice, and the second one, it can be in the form of narration of past events. Can be in the form of one in cultural practice, cultural practices, which include riddles, songs, poems, music, and others, our cultural practices. So this one, it can be conveyed in the form of cultural practice such as riddles, songs, poems, as well as music. And another form, it is in the form of narration of past events. Narration of past events. Narration of past events. And normally narration of past event in our society, it can be done by anyone in our society. But concerning the past event, and this one is obviously conveyed by the elders who can convey or can narrate a past story about a certain death, event such as death, war, or any events. That is the oral tradition method. So one can keep the method through the word of mouth, through talking. The way I'm talking here, I'm just narrating to you some concept related with the historical event. So this is oral tradition. The way I'm talking, that is the main. The second method is known as archives. Archives. Now you can ask yourself, what do we mean when we say archives? Class archives. Now, when we say archives, we refer to the collection of public and private documents. Collection of public and private documents in our daily life. So when we say archives, is the collection of public and private documents. The collection of public and private documents. And this document can be collected from various areas. And this document can be for institution documents, can be government offices documents, and other examples. Now, as I've said, in a collection of public and private documents. Now, these public documents, which are collected in various ways or in various resources, are used to give or to record the historical event about the past events. For example, of these archives, it can be in the form of examples of archives. It can be, as I've said, the collection of public and private documents. It can be in the form of journals. It can be in the form of personal letters. It can be in the form of newspapers. Newspapers can be in the form of minutes, conferences, and the others. So these are examples of archives. But also archives, it can be a building whereby these documents are kept. It can be also a building whereby these documents are kept. But you do not confuse with the museum. We shall see later on about the museum. But when say archives is the collection of public and private documents, and this also, it can be also in the form of buildings. In the form of building. That is the meaning of archives. Hope we are together. Number 3, it is known as museums. Museums. Now, museums, our special buildings whereby the historical information and objects are kept. Objects are kept. So when you say museums are special buildings, whereby different historical informations as well as objects are kept for further studies or research and so forth. This is the meaning of museums. And remember, different artifacts, cultural and even political tools or objects can be kept there. We have a good number of museums in our country. We have the following museums as examples in our country. Hope you know these examples. Museums, you can mention them where you are or write or note somewhere. Examples of museums in Tanzania. You have the National Museum in which is located in Dar es Salaam, National Museum in Dar es Salaam. We have also Kalenga Museum. This is located in Iringa. It is a special museum for Mtwankwawa, the hero who fought against the Germans. We have another Mwalimu Nyerere Museum. This is located in Butiama Mara region. We have another Bujora Museum. This is in Mwanza region. Another is Arusha Declaration Museum. Which is located in Arusha. So to mention the few, these are few of the examples of the museums in our country. So one can get the information from the museum by going to those areas and study and concentrate more and get what he or she wants to know about it. Number 4, another method used to keep historical event, it is known as anthropology. Now, when we say anthropology, we mean the scientific study of the scientific cultural study of cultural system of a particular society at a given time. When you say anthropology, refers to scientific study of cultural system of a particular society. Society. That is the meaning of anthropology. They refer to the scientific study of cultural system, the cultural system of a particular society over time. And a person who studies about anthropology is known as anthropologist. This is a person who studies about anthropology. Is a person who studies about anthropology. That is the meaning of anthropologist. Another method which is used to record historical events as number 5 is known as historical sites. historical sites. Now, historical site refer to the place whereby past human activities took place there, or past human activities are found there. That is the meaning of historical site. And you have plenty of examples of historical sites in our country. So historical site refers to the places whereby historical events took place there. That's the meaning of historical site. So refers to the place whereby historical event took place there. We have many examples, as I said, whereby historical event took place. For example, these historical events can be either grouped in various ways. Can it be slave trade events? Can it be colonization events? Can it be in the form of chiefs and the traditional chiefs who established the various empires in our country? We have plenty of examples. Just to mention these ones. Number one, it is Isimila. Examples of historical site, Isimila. And we have this one known as Olduvai Gorge, Bagamoyo, Mjiji, Mji Mkongwe in Zanzibar, Kondoa Ilangi, and the others. So these are some of the examples of historical sites. So someone can get there, can go to those areas or visit those areas and learn more about the past historical events. Another one we have, it is known as archaeology. Now, archaeology is the scientific study of past human activities remains. It is scientific study of past human activities remains. That is the meaning of archaeology. The scientific studies of past human activities remains. And this one, it is also known as the study of fossils. But this one is done through, archaeology is done through digging out materials from the soil or from the ground. So this archaeology, as I said, it is done through digging out materials from the soil or from the ground in order to obtain various past historical remains. So someone can learn about this one through digging out, through excavation of various materials in those areas. Now, we have a person who studies or specializes in this one. A person who specializes on this one is known as archaeologist. This is a person. This is a person who studies about fossils, or past human activities remains. This man is known as archaeologists. In East Africa, we have examples of archaeologists. We have Dr. Louis Leake and Mary Leake, who discovered the Iron skull of Zinjanthropus 1959 at Olduvai Gorge in Arusha. So these are examples of archaeologists we have in the East Africa. Another method for record keeping is known as written records. Now, written record, these are written documents. These are written documents so as to give the information to the societies. Refers to the written documents, such as books, magazines, newspapers, letters, and etc. So these are the written documents that someone can get from various ways. And normally written documents are found at the library. If you go there to the library, you can find many books which are there, so you can go and read and revise for you adding knowledge for that concept. But also you have the last one, which is known as linguistic. Yeah, linguistic, this is the scientific study and analyze the language of a particular society. This involves the structure of language and other forms of language in particular. So someone else can get the information through studying the language of a particular society where we are living. So linguistic is the scientific study and analyze language in our society. The scientific study and the analyze language in our society. So all of these are the methods which are used to keep the historical events. As I've mentioned, the example of historical events which took place in our countries are so many. So we can just pass through one after this so as we can get you the knowledge and the information that you are required to get. So that is the end of our lesson. But before I wind up, I would like to give you a few questions for summing up for revision while you're at home there. A few questions for discussion while you're at home concerning today's lesson. Number one, mention methods used to keep historical information. Number two, list down two examples of archaeologists in East Africa. So these two questions are enough for you as part of revision. Make sure you revise. So I would like to end up my lesson and welcome to the next lesson. Thank you.